Okay, hello, welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us today, a very warm welcome to the Teacher Educators strand of World Teachers' Day events that the British Council is organising. My name is John Shackleton. I work for the British Council and I look after our teacher educator work around the world. Great to be with you. As always, a little bit of housekeeping before we start. So as you can see, this session is being recorded. Charles, I think, has put his cap on, which must mean that he is ready to start as well. That's fantastic. Please use the question and answer box for your comments and questions, and we encourage you to make use of that. Please make sure that your questions and comments are respectful of other people's beliefs, attitudes, and opinions. We're going to be talking about professional development opportunities for teacher educators. And in a second, I'm going to ask my Nguyen and Charles Motanya to say a little bit about themselves as we get going. But just to be clear on, if I can, there we go. Just to be clear then, Q&A, give us a shout out, please, in the question and answer box, just to make sure that it's working for you, who you are and where you are from. We would love to know those two details and any thoughts you have as we go through this session. We'll be pausing to take questions and comments, of course. And then some information there about certificates of attendance at the end of this session. So that's our topic. Great to welcome Mai and Charles. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourselves, what you do currently, just to give us an idea of where you are, who you are, that kind of thing. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here with you guys. Happy Teachers' Day. I'm Charles Chukuma Motanya by name. I teach with the Amin Usale College of Education, Azare, in Bauchi State, Northeast Nigeria, West Africa. I have a bachelor's degree in English, a master's degree in English, and then lately I just defended my dissertation in same English from Nnamdi Azikiwe University, Awka, Anambra State, Southeast Nigeria. In my school, I teach English to NCE students. NCE is a National Certificate in Education. It's a teacher training institution where I teach pre-service teachers, NCE, undergraduate, that's degree in education, and then equally postgraduate students in education also. Yeah. And outside the school, I'm a mentor teacher, a master trainer, a consultant for UNICEF, United States Agency for International Development, that is USAID, UKAID, and then presently I'm equally working with the British Council on some trainings like strengthening teachers English proficiency course, which we are about to deliver the step down training. My major work outside the training I do for teachers in school, which is to teach them English. The in-service teachers will go out to train teachers all over Nigeria, but basically my work rests in the Northeast Nigeria, education in emergency. You know, we have an issue here in Northeast Nigeria, the issue of insurgency, the Boko Haram issue. And because of that, we have a lot of our people in IDP camps. They are not able to access education. And because of that, some NGOs, that is the reason why I say I work with USAID, UNICEF, and presently British Council, sometimes equally World Bank. We go there to build capacity of teachers because they've been out of school for, some of them 1 year, some of them 2 years, some of them 3 years, they are in the IDP camps. So they've missed a lot. So it's a kind of refresher training for teachers to come up speed of what they've lost on the years that they were out of school, and equally to impart on them the new trends and in teaching. And then lastly, I equally work with my professional organization in Nigeria, which is the English Language Association of Nigeria, that always collaborates with the British Council to impart on teachers, not just English teachers, on the best ways of teaching English. In fact, in Bauchi State, on the 21st of this month, I think we equally have another workshop where we're going to gather teachers to talk to them about the best ways to teach in schools. And the official language of teaching in Nigeria is English. So you must be of a certain proficiency level in English before you can even, teach. I think I will rest my case for now. The course of the program, if there are still some other left issues that I have not been able to talk about, I will still tell you about that. Thank you.
Giles, thank you very much. And the fact that you still find time to be with us this morning, given all of those things that you do, is absolutely fantastic, and a reminder that there are many, many challenging contexts, aren't there, around the world that teachers have to teach in, and that teacher educators have to work in too. Okay, thank you very much, Giles. Mai, what about yourself? Tell us a little bit about where you are, who you are, what you do, and that kind of thing. I think you're on mute.
Unmute yourself.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, hi everybody. I was just saying I'm very inspired by your introduction, Charles. And it's a pleasure to be on the same panel with you today. Hello, colleagues, educators, teacher educators, and teachers from different parts of the world today. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Nguyen. I am currently a senior lecturer in applied linguistics and TESOL at Manchester Metropolitan University. So I'm in Manchester, UK. I'm currently based in Manchester. So I was originally trained as an English teacher. So I'm an English teacher by trade. I was trained in Vietnam as an English teacher, and then I taught English in Vietnam to students at different levels, secondary, high school, and university levels, for around 7 years. And then I went on to learn more about teacher education and teacher development in my master's program. And also my PhD was also focused on the experience of teachers as they participated in a teacher education program in different contexts. And right now, my role, I think my main role is working with teachers, both pre and in-service teachers in the UK. But we are very lucky to have teachers coming from different contexts. We have local British students in our MA and BA TESOL program, as well as we have students from Nigeria as well, and Charles, on our MA program. And then our students are also coming from different parts of Asia. We have Pakistani students, we have Bangladeshi students, Vietnamese students, and from other European contexts as well. So we have quite a diverse group of international students or teachers joining us to learn more about the skills and the theories and the practice of language teaching. So my current role has been working with teachers and sharing my experience and my knowledge with them. So together we can all learn and develop as teachers and teacher educators.
Thank you so much indeed, Mai. I've got a question for you, but I'm not going to ask it hoping for an answer right now, but I'm going to throw it out there as well. You talked about diversity and this sort of geographical international spread, and I was wondering, as you were saying that, as I have done many times, whether that's a good thing in the sense that is it better to have groups of teacher educators, for example, they come from the same context, very similar roles, and they want to talk about finding solutions to problems that are particularly relevant to their context only? Or is it actually being in contact, the Pakistani teacher with a Nigerian teacher, talking about and looking for some kind of shared commonality across those, the artificial construct that is the nation state, across borders and stuff, or whether that's a more important ingredient in terms of, good learning for teachers that teacher educators can throw out. I won't ask you to answer that question, but I hope at the end that we can come back to that. And I'd like, if possible, if the audience can think about that for a second. We're talking about preferences in learning opportunities. Yeah, if we can have a think about that. Would you rather be in a group that is international, or would you rather be in a group that is made up of people from the same country with very, very similar roles? That's a question that is a bit of a slow burn there. Anyway, my question for both Mai and Charles is this one. So it's a very simple one, and we'd like the audience to be thinking about this as well. What kind of a learning opportunity is it that you personally look for when you're thinking about, okay, yeah, I can see that I'm not very good at that, or I need to get better at that, or I'm interested in finding out more about that. What kind of a learning event or opportunity do you look for? Charles, did you want to have a go at that one first?
Okay. I will say we have 3 learning opportunities. You can learn from other people, let's say maybe the experts. You can learn amongst your peers, people of like minds, people of same problem, and then you can equally learn on your own, self-study. So I wouldn't really want to say this is the one I prefer most, because the 3 of them are relevant. There are some times you need to go out there, learn from people that are professionals. And it's not just learning from people that are professionals. Sometimes in my teaching or training, I do equally learn from some of my participants. So that one, I will not want to put it aside. So I learn from people who I feel are above my level. Yes, getting some kind of professional expertise from them. I equally learn from people who I teach, who come to me for knowledge. They still come with some knowledge themselves. So I learn from them. And then I will not throw away learning on my own, which is the self-study that we are presently doing. Because that is the only way you can equally grow. You go out, you sit down, look around, check for opportunities, like how we got the opportunity of LEPACT, and then ACT and STEP, STRIDE, SPRINT from British Council. Those are self-study. You on your own with your laptop, you assess and then learn. And then the one that we did during our LEPACT and then ACT, collaborative learning. We are together, we are given tasks to do as a group. That one is, very, very wonderful. But I will not want to say that that is the best, because there are some things that you do, you feel that you're doing it the better way or the best way. And then some other person in your group is telling you, why not us look into it this same way? And I think it's better. And when you look at that particular, method, it's better than yours. And you don't feel shy. There is nothing like inferiority complex. All of you come together. You are like minds. You feel free. There isn't anything like, I don't know the answer. I'm afraid if I say it and it's not right and the rest of it. You open your mind, you pour your mind to your people and then tell them whatever it is that your problem, and they help you solve it. So I think the three learning preferences, I go with the 3. I don't have a specific one that I will say, this is the best that I want for me. Thank you.
Yeah, you sound like you're sitting on the fence a bit there, Charles, with that answer. Although I suspect from the passion that you used to talk about collaborative learning that there may be slight preference.
That will be the best out of all, but I don't want to just say that is what it is. Yes, that is the best out of all, but the 3 go along together.
Okay, I think I pretty much feel the same as you. So just before we get Mai's answer to that question, just a reminder to the audience, then we're talking about learning opportunity preferences. What do you look for, kind of thing? And as Charles was saying, very interesting. He's using the lens of learning from others, learning with others, or learning by yourself. So in the audience, if you'd like to tell us maybe what your preferences are or what you think about those preferences, that would be great. We'd love to hear from you. So don't forget about using the Q&A. Mai, over to you. What are your preferences there?
Yes, I would agree with you, Charles, and what John just summarized as well about all those three types of learning for teachers and teacher educators. I enjoy learning with my peers, with my colleagues, and also learning. And as I learn with them, I learn from them, and we learn from each other as well. And then also because teachers are busy, we don't always have time to talk all the time. So learning on my own is also one very useful thing that I do all the time as well. And for me, when I consider different learning opportunities for my professional development, what I often prioritize firstly is I would like to learn new ideas or new teaching practice, new practice with teacher educators. So in that sense, what I often do is I sign up, for example, to subscribe to different teacher educator or teacher network or resources. So I'm a regular subscriber of the British Council Teacher Educator newsletter. And so whenever there's any information about a new webinar or a new course, I would often go and read the description of the webinar and the course and find if there's anything in the description that really excites me, something that I don't really know well about, or I've known a little bit, but I want to know more about. I would then sign up and attend those events to learn more and to improve my knowledge and skills. Then that's when I enjoy learning with teachers and with colleagues, because many of the webinars are led by experts who are researchers or practitioners who are well versed, who are very knowledgeable about the area that they talk about. So I enjoy learning from others in those opportunities. In terms of learning with others, I think we both have had the opportunity to do the ACTE, the ACT, the short certificate of teacher education with the British Council as well. That definitely is a highlight of my 2023, because I just finished the course in April. So it was the course ran from January to April this year, and I have to say it's one of the best learning opportunities that I've ever had, because well, I consider myself a teacher educator, but I don't. But reflecting on my journey, I haven't really had any official opportunity to learn about teacher education officially, because I was trained to be an English teacher. I was trained to teach learners. I wasn't quite trained to teach teachers. And I think if you were in the first section of the webinar today as well, there was a lot of discussion about how being a teacher and being a teacher educator there are a lot of overlapping areas, but there are also differences for example, in terms of working with adults, teachers who have different needs and also who have different experience, who are very experienced or have different backgrounds. And so that involves a different set of skills for teacher educators as compared to being a teacher to language learners. And so on the ACTE, on the ACT, essentially that is what we focus on. So there was a whole unit on understanding participants or understanding teachers, and I found that particular unit absolutely illuminating in that sense, helping me to transfer between what I know about teaching a language and then what I need to know more about have supporting teachers to teach a language. So yeah, that's about learning with others. So a lot of collaboration opportunities and learning from peers during the ACTE experience. In terms of learning on my own, what I often enjoy doing is just, you know, enrolling on some of the MOOC, the massive open online courses that the British Council has several MOOCs as well. And I've also been participating in courses on Coursera and FutureLearn, and in those MOOCs, I find myself mainly learning on my own. Of course, there's some sort of interaction as well with the teacher and the participants, but I enjoy learning at my own pace and just taking notes of things on my own. But because MOOCs are very well designed for self-study, so I still feel I learn a lot, and I can still manage between learning and other many different things in my life. So yeah, so that's about how I approach different learning opportunities as a teacher educator.
Thank you so much indeed, Nguyen. That was really interesting. I mean, really interesting and beautifully expressed, if I might say so. Got a couple of comments coming in, and I think the first one from Yulia, who says, learning from British Council website. So in relation to that third kind of learning that we've talked about, sort of learning by yourself, then what do you think about that? About where does this static information come into your learning? You know, the websites, I mean, like the British Council that's got, you know, webinar recordings on it, or articles or research pieces. I mean, where does that fit in? Is that, you know, you're talking about you like to learn at your own pace, for example. I don't know, did you want to say a little bit about that, about this sort of static stuff in relation to learning by yourself? Are you still there?
Yeah, do you want me or Charles to respond to that, John?
Yourself first, because I've got another difficult question lined up from Meg.
All right, okay. Yeah, I think there's two very relevant comments from the audience there, learning from the British Council websites, and yeah, I think I do it all the time as well, because as a teacher educator, we for example, for myself, I have courses that I regularly teach. For example, task-based language teaching. So those are things that I'm quite confident about. But then there are also times when I work with topics that I'm not quite familiar with. And then in that situation, I would often go online and search for different sources. And it's always, I think almost most of the time, brings me to the British Council Teaching English.org website, because there's hundreds of very useful materials, and especially when it comes to language teaching, things are explained really well and really in very easy to understand language on the British Council website, and so I find it's always one of the most useful sources for me when I self-learn and self-explore materials for my teaching. I also very much agree with May when you say yes. So it's all of those types of learning would be useful depending on where we are and different time, our constraint in terms of time, and then opportunities. So yeah, I would agree that we should always embrace all the different resources and availabilities and that we have to support our learning.
Okay, let's just further talk about what May and Aldwin are talking about. So May says it depends on the time, place, and people accordingly, and I'll pick out the people bit in that. And also Charles and Aldwin has picked up on learning with your peers. Okay, so this is a question, and let's just unpick that a little bit with you, Charles, if we may. Okay, we've all had the experience of learning from or learning with others, rather, being in a group. You know, everybody went to school, everybody was in a class. We've all had that collaborative learning experience. Yeah. So, some of them are good, some of them are less good. You know, and that we kind of sort of accept that, yeah, learning with other people, that's the way forward kind of thing. Except that, you know, there are cases I can think of where I have not enjoyed that experience for one reason or another, possibly related to the other people in the group, or, you know, Charles, in your experience, then let's just ask this question: are there things that you think are kind of really essential ingredients for that positive collaborative learning experience that, if you were facilitating, for example, you would want to encourage?
Okay, learning with peers comes with a lot of challenges, and then equally advantageous. First of all, in learning with your peers, there is need to respect every other person's view. Have patience. Learn to tolerate, because in that kind of situation, every other person wants to prove that he or she knows the best, and he or she's idea must be taken. So in that situation, there is a kind of competition going on. I have this degree, I have this, I'm better than you in this area, I've had this experience, I do this, I did that. At the end of the day, it is always very difficult to even accept a particular point. So you really need to, manage yourself, respect people's views, and then always learn to, tolerate. Once they get their views, sieve it, and then know the better, option to take. Then on another side, collaborative learning or learning with peers is always very, very good, because you have people that are doing the same work with you. People that have different challenges that you may have. People that have taught before you, longer experience. So getting their views will always aid you to, surmount whatever problem that you're going to have in future. Not for a particular, teaching or training session, but in the nearest future, you may see something that you did in your group that you could use to solve a future problem. So I think learning with peers is really necessary, because I the first time I experienced it was this British Council English Connect. There was a training we had in Abuja. That was the first time it was introduced. We are working in pairs, people from different higher institutions being grouped to solve a problem, write a kind of lesson plan, critique that, present it, reflect on it, have a positive feedback. And it was very wonderful, because if I had said, let me do this on my own, I would have presented it without all those, very good and important ingredients that other people contributed to make the work a perfect one. And it still continued in our LEPACT, that's the learning pathways into assured certificate in teacher education. And then it was now perfected in ACT itself. Because now, after all those peer learning and the rest of it, we now have a WhatsApp that I can communicate with somebody in Ethiopia. How is it going on there? I'm having this kind of problem. Can you help? Oh, I have had this kind of problem. Look at how I solved it. And rest. So we are now friends. It's now a global village, community of practice. On my own, I equally set up my own, because there was a time that we were required to, train some people on the English Connect and some of the British Council, this CPD and the rest of it. After that, it was a group of primary and secondary school teachers. After that, we started mixing up. I said, regard me as your colleague. We are now a pair. There is nothing like looking at where I teach and who I teach at the higher institution. We're now pairs. So feel free. And every other day in our WhatsApp group, one problem or the other comes up. How do I do this? How do I tackle this? And we do it. And it's really a wonderful experience. It's not just at that particular moment where you're having the task to do and then learning from one another. The after game is more than what you get at the immediate moment where you're learning with your peers. So I think it's a wonderful experience that should be encouraged. Thank you.
Charles, thank you so much. Indeed, I didn't really want to interrupt there because I was really energized by what you were saying. Couple of things. And respect, it's a word that we don't use enough. Absolutely, one of the key ingredients, and the implications of that for a teacher educator. If you're facilitating a collaborative learning group, you've got to model that, haven't you? You yourself have got to live that respect. You've got to behave in the right kind of way that sets the tone, that inculcates the same kind of behavior in the people in the group. Absolutely. Okay, let's just move on a little bit then. So we talked about that particular lens of looking at, in a sense, choosing professional development practices, learning from others, learning with others, and learning by yourself. And there's a very nice comment coming in from Rosalind as well about yeah. So it does, you know, as May was saying, it does depend on people, place, and time. And you know, Aldwin's talking about time as well, about picking up on something that Mai said about, you know, the benefit of asynchronous learning is that you can control exactly when you do the learning. But Rosalind's talking about you know, the combination of those different kinds of opportunity, from others, with us, by yourself kind of thing, or what contributes to our competence, and looking around for all sorts of different resources and modes, etc. Great. Okay. So I've got a good question now here, which I think many teachers would ask of their learners, and I think perhaps many teacher educators would ask of their teachers, and I'm going to ask it of you. So, do you like being assessed on your learning? Mai, over to you first.
If I have to be honest, I wouldn't want to be strictly assessed for my learning, but I do see a lot of benefits in being assessed and completing different assessments. Again, I like to refer back to the ACT course that I took this year, because I think part of some of the feedback that we've shared with among course members is that there were a lot of assessment pieces that we had to complete throughout the course. I think we had a weekly assessment, right, Charles? Yeah. Every week we discuss one topic, and then at the end of the week we have an assessment related to the weekly topic. So at first it felt a little bit overwhelming, because we had to always, because, well, if it's self-learning, then you can, and that's not assessed, then you can invest in a lot of things that you like, and then you don't have to really look much at things that you don't quite like. But then when it comes to an assessment, you have to try and understand and think about everything that is assessed. But then the good thing about it is that it really helps us to consolidate all of our learning, and also to think really deeply about how we're going to apply what we learn to our own practice as a teacher educator. Because a lot of the assessment, most if not all the assessment in the ACTE course were all very, very practical and very reflective. So we weren't asked to reproduce what we learned. We were always asked to apply what we learned. For example, how to deliver an effective workshop. So we learned about the theory of what factors make an effective workshop for teachers. But we then, in the assessments, apply all of that to consider, look at the different examples of workshops delivered by other educators, and then evaluate how effective those workshop plans are. Think about improvement points. So yes, so I wouldn't always like to be assessed, but I do appreciate the opportunity of being assessed. And then one thing that really makes assessment very, very inspirational for us during the ACT is that we get to talk to our moderator, our assessor, about our assessment, and that makes it very, very open, and at the end of the course, I become good friends with my assessor, my e-moderator, because we know each other throughout all those 3 months, and we understand even like our language. She understood how I often wrote, so, and I understand her style of feedback as well. So we become good friends because of that. So yeah, so all that assessment experience was very enriching for me.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much indeed, Mike. I think your namesake, May, slight namesake, I think also agrees with that it's not that it's a necessary evil. That's not what you're saying. You think that something inside you that, given the choice, you perhaps prefer to not to be tested, but that you absolutely recognize the value of it. Especially, I think this is important when it's assessment for learning purposes rather than assessment for punishment, for example, which perhaps typifies many assessment regimes in our education systems for young people. We don't have an awful lot of time, so I'll ask Charles the question about assessment maybe in our own time. What I did want to ask you, Charles, about though, is something that Mai began to talk about, which is the application of learning. What is the point of going on a course or reading an article or joining a group to learn together if you can't apply what it is that you have learned? So, difficult question, Charles, for you, but what do you think are some of the barriers, some of the challenges for teachers, maybe for yourself as well, in applying any knowledges that they might pick up, any skills that they might pick up from the different kinds of learning that we've been talking about? Challenges to application of learning.
The first, I would say, in my own context, because I've really gained a lot from some of these international organizations about nutrients, pedagogy, andragogy, and the rest of them. We have a situation in my country. It is always very difficult for you to change the norm. Now, it's been introduced for over almost getting to a decade now, the issue of activity learner-centered teaching, which is the in thing now, where you take the learning to the learners. Every other thing revolves around them, while you, a teacher, prompts them to get the answer. And there is nothing that they will say that is wrong, because they say any nonsense, and there is a sense in nonsense. So now we teach. There was an experience after the English Connector program. I went to a school and I wanted to kind of assess, look at what I've done, and then how are they, implementing that, a little bit related to the question you asked, implementing, what you've learned. So to my surprise, I told them that the best way the students can learn is to be in groups. You change the pattern. There is individual learning, classroom arrangement, there is pair, there is group, and there is the whole class. So I told them that most of the times, let it not be that a student has a kind of a particular position in the classroom. Always change the position of a student every other day in your lesson, because some people permanently sit on a particular place. Maybe he's not a quick learner, and then he will sit down with his like for a whole term of 3 or 4 months without learning anything new, without changing. There is always need to always mix them together in groups. This person will join this group, he will help them upgrade. This other person will join this group next time, he will help them upgrade, and that. But I came to the class, to my surprise that day, I came to the class, it was still the fixed sitting arrangement. There was nothing like the group. And they told me, yes, Dr. Charles, we tried doing what you asked us to do. But the proprietor came this morning and said, what is the meaning of this nonsense? Did I call them to come to my school to now come and change everything? What would the parents say if they come? So the phobia for change is a problem. And another thing, there is issue of time. In the Ministry of Education here in Nigeria, we have a curriculum for the students. And we have, if it is the primary school, we have 35 minutes for you to teach them. And you're not teaching them only English. You teach them English and other subjects. 35 minutes. Now, if you want to implement this activity learner center teaching approach, where you always give the students time to express themselves, to write on the board, to champion learning themselves, the feedback and the rest of it, it takes a lot of time. And for them to now implement, they will tell you, if we continue this way, we will not finish this curriculum and there will be problems. So you prepare a lesson plan for a particular lesson. And if you don't finish it, that is the end of it. Whether they understand or they don't understand, that is it. So in implementation, we have the issue of time and then the phobia for change. Things are fixed and it's very, very, very difficult for us. But we are trying and, they are coming up with the new, but it is still a little bit difficult because some people are still, skeptical about it. Yes.
Okay, Charles, I think what you just said there about the kind of the institutional constraints, for example, I think they resonate with many people who are with us today. Could you just build on that, maybe ask Mai to get her opinion on this, that, Charles talked about this sort of kind of phobia of change or resistance to change, that kind of thing. And that his example was to do with the, with the kind of the school, the principal, what's going on, what would the parents say about this? Do you also think that it's actually a big challenge with the teachers that you work with as well, that it's actually their kind of resistance to change? Charles is telling them about the benefits of learner-centeredness, for example, and they're going, yeah, right, yeah. It'll never work when I get back to school, that kind of thing. Do you see this as being the other side, if you like, of that resistance to change coin, that it's something internal from teachers also?
Even on the teachers, it has the same problem because they want to tell you that this was how they were taught in their grade 2 in the university in those days. To your surprise, some people were taught with a note, like some of us that are teaching in the teacher training institution. They were taught with a note. That note that they used in their school 20, 30 years ago, some of them will still bring it up in the class and then read it, dictate the notes to the students, and then teach them the same thing. When you're telling them that times have changed, you need to go on with the new trend. They will tell you, forget about that thing, do what you have to do, because if you want to follow this one that you're doing, definitely you will land yourself in problem. And when the supervisors come, they will say, where are you bringing all these things from? We go and train people on this, but when it comes to your implementing it, the teachers will equally tell you, we know about this, but let us do the one that will, that will not have sanctions about in the school system. So it's applicable to the teachers. Some of them are equally, I don't know,
Yeah.
So that is.
Okay, thank you so much, Charles. So last word to Mai on that point. Now, I think what I'm getting at is that our teachers, in some sense, their own barriers to implementing change, and that actually what the school principals said, they're also barriers, but it's actually something much more personal and interior, if you like.
Yeah, I would agree that, because I've seen a lot in different teacher education contexts that I've worked as well, that there's this top-down constraints that Charles mentioned do have a lot of influence, a lot of impact on the teacher themselves. And so when, for example, as teacher educators, we work with teachers in a workshop, and we have this brilliant idea, for example, doing task-based language teaching, for example, and then many teachers would perhaps then think, well, that sounds like a good idea, but then how does it work in my context? And so I think that would be a very common situation to many teacher educators. So And there are a few different ways to go around that. Actually, because we can't really say to our teachers, well, okay, then you do what you do. So what's the point of this workshop then? So what I often do is actually being really upfront with the teachers about the challenges of implementing this particular new idea that we're introducing to them. But then many of them would agree, yes, these are the challenges. So what do we do? So I would then show them examples of teachers in different contexts, in other contexts that have done, for example, task-based language teaching, and they've had all of these challenges as well. But at the same time, they've done all of these other things to try and make small changes in their classroom, maybe just 1 or 2 lessons, and then talking to 1 or 2 other colleagues and trying and convince them. Because I think in many situations, teachers are very strong in terms of supporting each other. So in some cases, it's more effective to use a teacher's story to influence or to somehow try and convince the teacher that we work with to do something new in their classroom by using stories of success from different groups of teachers. So teachers helping teachers. Or even I can also, because most educators are teachers as well. So if I can't find any success stories from, like from a newspaper article, from a research article that we have, I can use my own story. And again, I'll be very, very honest with my teachers about the challenges, at the same time emphasize to them how they can navigate and manipulate things to try and do new things.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much indeed. We're overrunning, and it's always a shame, isn't it? Because these are really desperately important subjects that we're talking about. How do you really get over resistance to change? How do you approach the learning process in a way that's going to make it meaningful and applicable beyond the resistance to change, whether it's interior or institutional? Absolutely. So thank you very much indeed. There's some comments from Judith, for example, who talks about that experience you had of becoming friends with your in a sense your mentor, your e-moderator on the ACT course that you referenced. Yeah, we talked, didn't we, about the important skill that teacher educators need to have, which is about constructive feedback. It's about developing a relationship, an environment in which people do feel particularly comfortable and approach that level of relationship that you might describe as being friends, for example. That's very, very important. Rosalind talked about this, the choosing different preferences or following up your different preferences. It depends what you're doing, doesn't it? And I think that, the thing that she's saying about learning with others, you need that challenge, don't you? That's one of the differences between learning on your own and learning with others, is that there's nobody to challenge you if you're learning by yourself, except, which we don't have time again in this session to talk about, you're using AI, which is very good at challenging your opinions. Okay, so a lot coming in here that we'd like to perhaps pick up on in the next session. So along with the audience, I'd like to thank Mai and Charles for your really, really, really insightful comments and the way you presented those insightful comments. And I hope it's the same for the audience. Inspirational stuff, that clearly, that we're involved in a collective undertaking that brings about great benefit to teachers and great benefit, therefore, to the students that they teach as well. So thank you so much indeed. We're going to have a pause now. We're going to be back in now 11 minutes, and 11 minutes time, we're going to be talking about a particular example of a learning opportunity, a MOOC. Okay, so see you in now 10 minutes. So thanks very much in the audience. Great stuff. Thank you. All the best. See you in 10 minutes. Okay, thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.